Well, hello everyone, and welcome. Not quite there yet. Here comes. Hello everyone, and welcome to Satsang with G on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Maybe it's Sunday night where you are. And those of you who watch the replays rather than live, sorry about the fact that whenever it starts, there's just me sitting there staring at the screen, because even though it started, it doesn't show as though it started here. And so I kind of get, it's pretty funny. So I'm kind of sitting there blankly, waiting for it to begin. And so hello, everyone. Hello, says Eli Jen. Anne says hi. Johanna says hola. Johanna's in Mexico. Eli said, I shaved my head. I look like a Marine, but I'm more like a monk. Well, you're just going to have to get the ochre robes, my friend, and then you'll fit the bill just nicely. Ethereal Gaming. Hi there, Ethereal. A quick question. Been hearing stuff about today's new moon and energy shift. What does that mean? I'll get to that first. Very good. Yeah, I'm glad. You might be able to hear from my voice that I'm a little bit congested today, and speaking a little softly as well. So I would love to have a lot of questions right off the bat, because I don't really have much to say right now. Mauro Silas from Holland. Holland is online. Judy from Florida. Cecilia, hello. Hello from Slovenia, from Malayuga. I trust you can all hear me. The little meter is telling me that my voice is going. 21 watching now. I love how quickly people join in, and so I really thank you all for joining me here. As I said, I'm not feeling 100% today, so the more questions I get, the better I like it. You guys can help me create the curriculum for today, if I can call it that. I don't really think much of a curriculum. Hello from Monterey. Hello, Alessandra. So good to have you here. Jill says, hey, G. Hi, Jill. I'm sipping on some green tea today. I've calmed my throat a bit. One thing that did occur to me that I always like to point out to people, especially when myself or another teacher gets treated like a guru. The word guru is really a beautiful word. It's been really misunderstood and even kind of abused a bit in the English language. Irina says hello from Georgia. Hello, Irina. Is that the Georgia that used to be a part of Russia, or is that the Georgia in the United States? Natasha from Switzerland. Hello, Natasha. Anne says, I've been finding much peace in the emptiness suggested by Evan on coaching call in response to my loose end feelings. Very, very good. Very, very good. I'll take up some emptiness here in a minute. So anyway, the word guru, in the West, we've tried to make it into somebody who's got a lot of knowledge and even a lot of really specialized technical knowledge or esoteric knowledge. The word is a Sanskrit word that simply means one who dispels darkness. It isn't about knowledge. It isn't about gaining knowledge. And the actual guru, the real guru, and you even have a term for it called the Sadguru. The guru that you meet, the person, or sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's a practice, is a means to an end. It's simply the way the teacher appears to you in the moment. But the actual teacher, And the actual teaching is all coming from within. It is all being generated from the truth that's within you. And that's what the term Sadguru means. Sadguru means the ultimate, the final, the inner guru, the one who ends all doubt. And that is completely within you. And that's the thing to note. They have a saying in Zen that if you meet the Buddha on the street, kill him. And it has typical Zen harshness to it. Chop off his head. But the sentiment behind it is, don't project your truth, your spiritual growth, your spiritual recognition and realization onto anyone. Everyone who comes into your life is simply an aid to self-realization. And that's key to the whole thing. So while you're sitting here in satsang with me or satsang with another teacher in any class you're taking, especially when it is directed towards spirituality, bear that in mind, that it is the inner voice that brought you to this place where you're hearing an outer voice. And eventually we get to the point where the inner voice is so dominant and over and loud and easily recognizable that the outer voice becomes less and less, to the point where it eventually isn't needed at all anymore, because it's all, you see that even all the outer voices you were experiencing were just different disguises that the inner voice was using, and the true guru, the Sadguru, the guru within, was using just to keep you, to give you what you needed, to feed you lay out the breadcrumbs that you would follow back home. And every true guru will know that. And any true guru, any teacher that attempts to intimidate you or belittle you or diminish you or make you feel guilty about something, especially if you want to leave them and they're promise all sorts of horrible things happening to you, they're not a real teacher. They're not the real thing at all. They are the ego masquerading as a teacher, pretending to be, and really preying on the innocent and people when they're just vulnerable and open and really want to and want to know the truth. And there's plenty of people out there who will prey on the innocent. And just actually had a few experiences of helping people through exactly that, the inner turmoil and the fear that is still there, that get installed by deeply false gurus. And there are some that are very aggressive about it, some that are very almost malevolent, others that are simply ignorant. Right? Remember, the ultimate responsibility for what you take into your life, take into your mind, take into your thoughts, take into your heart, lies with you and with nobody else. Just remember that. You're Kerberos, right? Kerberos is the three-headed dog that guards the gates of Hades, right? So nothing gets by him. You can see in all directions. And you need to be that. Because everything that you believe to be true gets manifested in your life, and you experience it as such. So we got some questions coming. Let me get right to them. Let's see. Ethereal Gaming said, have been hearing stuff about today's new moon and energy shifts. What does that mean? I'll address it on that question on two levels. One is on the, our practical everyday level. On a practical everyday level, everything is interrelated, interconnected. When something happens on the other side of the world, it has a rippling effect through all of us. Just like if I have sore toe, it affects all the rest of my body. Now, it doesn't shut down my stomach from digesting food, but it certainly shifts the energy of the entire system. And lots of things, lots of processes, get into action to help repair whatever damage is done. But so anything going wrong in any part of your body affects all the rest of your body. Well, it's just a short step to recognize that the boundary of the skin that we normally think separates me from you, from self from other, doesn't separate anything at all. That boundary is purely in the mind. The separation between us does not exist at all, which means that everything that's happening does have a profound and sometimes really subtle, sometimes very obvious influence and effect on us, as the entire organism, the entire Gaian mind is functioning as a whole. To see the entire earth as a single organism and our own human bodies as part of that says, well, yes, the full moons, I mean, obviously the female moon cycle, the menstrual cycle of women is from the moon. I mean, it's the body is actually going through the rhythms, this dance with all of nature, the cycles on the ocean. I mean, the moon can actually pull the entire ocean one way and the other. So does it have an effect on us? Yes. Does it have an effect on it when it's new, or is it different when it's new or when it's a full moon? Well, the answer would have to be no. It's not any different, because it just means we're seeing it. And so we project on the phases of the moon characteristics that it doesn't have. There is a moon cycle that it goes through. And just the fact that part of it is being hidden doesn't mean the effect is there. So the effect that it's having is where it's moving in through the sky, how it's coming up, when it's coming up, the time of year, and all of that sort of thing. So the important thing is to see that everything on the face of the earth is interconnected. If we can see that, we're going to be if we can really see that, we're going to be a lot slower. We're going to be asking ourselves whether we really want to be cutting down the Amazon rainforests, making dumping plastic into the ocean. We'll actually begin to go, oh, this isn't just a big pile of resources for my use. It's a living thing. I'm part of that living thing, and me continuing to live depends on that thing living. Now, that said, there's another level, because everything that is being experienced, all the interconnection of the earth, is but an image appearing in the fullness of consciousness. Consciousness is bigger than all of that. If you are identified with your body, you will experience the ups and downs and ebbs of flow of your body as if they were you. If you're not identified with the body, you simply allow the body to go through its cycles, go through its ups and downs and its ebbs and its flows, and it does not affect you, because you are the changeless consciousness out of which all of the changing phenomena is emerging. And all of that changing phenomena actually has its innate oneness in the fact that all of it comes from a common source. That common source is what is consciousness. It is pure awareness. It is God. It is the I am. It is the sense of being. So it's all a matter of where you are identifying. When you are identified fully with consciousness, you are totally free. The environments of earth do not affect you. They don't stop, they continue. And in fact, you enjoy them. You enjoy them even more. You love them. They're amazing. It's that beauty, that polarity, that flow of life, which is just, it will keep us fascinated and interested and engaged for eternity, because it's never changing. And it's always beautiful. But the end of suffering is when we realize that we are not that essentially, we are consciousness, and that consciousness is the essence and source of everything, including this body. And so hopefully that takes you from the recognition of the interconnectedness with things down to the essence of those things. And the whole purpose of spirituality, and especially of non-dual inquiry, is for that sense of identity to return, to draw itself back out of what it is experiencing into its own nature as the ultimate experiencer, the ultimate subject, the consciousness, the very same consciousness that is hearing my words right now, that is recognizing what is being said. That is it. It really is that simple. But that consciousness holds within it the entirety of eternity and the infinite creation. So I hope that helps you. Ethereal Gaming, I hope that answers your question. Trevor says, hi, G, great to be with you again. Great to be with you, sir. Natasha from Switzerland, oops. Have been finding much peace in this emptiness. Excuse me, I have no Kleenex. Sorry. I've been finding much peace in the emptiness suggested by Evan on a coaching call in response to my loose ends feelings. I'm very, very happy about that. Emptiness is another deeply spiritual, deeply non-dual concept that is vastly misunderstood, because the mind can't, when the mind thinks of empty, it thinks of nothing, right? Oh, there's nothing there, it's empty, there's nothing there, like an empty glass, right? Well, it's not empty, it's half empty, right? So there's nothing in the top, and we even use that in common language. But this emptiness is not that. This emptiness simply means it doesn't have any limiting characteristics. It has no distinguishing attributes. The moment you take anything and draw a line around it and say, this is what it is, you have defined it. And to a certain extent, you have imprisoned it within that definition. It says, well, this is a glass, this is a cup. Boom, that's all there is to it. I am a man, I'm a woman, I'm a nice guy, I'm a scoundrel. The moment there's a sense of where we get outlined into a particular form, we become limited, we become contained by that form. Emptiness is simply referring to that which cannot be bounded by any form. It also refers to the nature of all form. We can say this cup is empty. That is, it's empty of self-existence, right? It doesn't exist independently. There's no cup independent of all the little molecules and atoms and, the clay, the stuff that this was made of. It's a pottery thing. Maybe porcelain. No, it's not porcelain. Anyway, if I take this and smash this into a million pieces, everything that was regarded as a cup is still there, but there's no cup. It means that form itself is empty of self-existence. And so emptiness becomes the nature of things. It doesn't mean void, it doesn't mean nothing. It simply means the nature of all things is essentially empty. Now, this is extremely powerful for us as human beings, because if we were not empty, if you were not empty, that is, if you were not, if you actually were defined the way you define yourself, you would not be able to grow. You'd not be able to evolve. You wouldn't be able to gain new skills, or new skins for that matter, right? If I am just this, then becoming something other than that becomes impossible. But because I'm not just this, I can become anything. And if I can become anything, then what am I essentially? Essentially, I'm infinite being, which is simply another way of saying emptiness. So we're talking about emptiness, we're not talking about nothingness. We're talking about it's simply not a fixed structure. It is not solid in any way. It is in terms of form, things come and go. This body's changing constantly. But the essential emptiness itself, in fact, is changeless. Is that anybody who is confused about that? Because Anne made a statement about it. And yes, that will alleviate loose end feelings, because the loose end feelings, like something's missing, comes from the sense that something is supposed to be solid and fixed. Oh, it's a loose end. Shouldn't it be like this, like XYZ? Right? But when you say it should be like XYZ, what you're trying to do is to make it not empty. You're trying to make it into a permanent thing. There will always be loose ends because, or never loose ends, depending on how when you look at it. It means that every single moment is absolutely perfect in and of itself. And there are no loose ends. And when there appear to be loose ends, it has no impact on you. There's no suffering involved in it. There's just the flow of life. And it is the essential nature of being as emptiness that is what allows life to flow. Because if it's something, it's stuck, it's a rock. But if it's not something in particular, if it is just forms coming and going, expressing their nature as emptiness, then there are no limits. Being, creation, unfoldment, evolution can go on forever and go places we can't even possibly imagine. Emptiness is just such a powerful and significant idea to truly grasp. And the Heart Sutra just starts with Avalokite Shavada, looking upon the five skandhas, looking upon the physical senses and the nature of perception, and finding it to be empty of self-existence. And went on to give us the true nature of wisdom in 36 verses. So highly recommend it. Chrissy says hi to G and all from New Zealand. Hello, Chrissy. Irina, Georgia in Europe. That Georgia. Much love and appreciation for your work, G. You're so welcome. Hi from France, from Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Let me hold on a second. Sorry, just muted my mic there for a second. Eli says, haha, there's a dude named Sadhguru who's very popular. He said he's never read a book in his life. Highly popular. I've heard him. I've listened to things from him. I like what he has to say. I myself am not particularly enamored with him, but I don't have any argument with what he has to say, except, choosing the name Sadhguru. When Sadhguru has a very significant meaning, but I don't know him that well. But yes, he's quite an interesting character. Life is a sketch. Hi from Slovenia. Hi there, life is a sketch. Pam says hi, GP. I think Pam's in the UK. Shanika says hi, GP from England. And Shanika adds, I am really tired of this psychological me. I just want to do nothing. I know it's not fair for my family. What shall I do? This is a common experience. As we begin to awaken to the nature of the psychological me, the psychological mind, and just see how void of satisfaction it is, how crazy it can be, how it just kind of chases its own tail, there's a very natural sense of, oh my God, let me out of here. And the more you realize that all of our suffering is originating there, the more the more intense it gets about wanting to be free from it. But if we start struggling with it, I can't stand anymore, I've got to get out. If you start that struggle, you start this happening, and the more you push against it, the stronger it gets, because the psychological mind literally feeds on resistance. Remember, the ego is resistance. The ego is not a thing that is resisting. It is a word for the energy of resistance that has, and that resistance is simply the nervous system holding on to a particular way of being. And you cannot force it out of that position. And to even want to force it out of that position well, it'll fail, but the desire to force it is also part of this psychological me. And then what arises is a sense that I don't really want to participate in this. I don't, as you said, I don't want to do. I want to do nothing. I don't want to do it. I know, but I know it's not fair for my family. So here's what you do. Drop the struggle with it. This isn't about forcing ourselves to make physical doing changes in our lives. This is about a shift in perception. This is about seeing things as they are. If you see the psychological mind, the psychological me, beginning to arise and want to take over a situation, you simply withdraw from it. Don't change what you're doing. Don't do something that's going to put your family in jeopardy. Simply continue to deepen your seeing. Now, what will happen is, in the deepening of the seeing, new opportunities for you to do what Buddha referred to as right living, ways of taking care of what has to be taken care of in your everyday life, but consistent with the right views, the right seeing of things, which was the first. Right living was one of the path, the steps on the path that lead to the end of suffering, the eightfold path, which is the way out of suffering. And the first was right views. So out of right views will come the right living, the right way, a way that is supportive and conducive to your awakening. Because what happens at first, most of our lives get settled in when we're not awake. Then we start to wake up when we feel that conflict, and then we want to struggle with the conflict. Don't struggle. If you've done any of my courses on allowing or inner reconciliation or any of the meditation, everything is about not struggling. It is about not creating. It is withdrawing from conflict. If you're not fighting with this energy, there's no fight, right? It takes two. It won't fight with itself. And if you're not resisting it, if you're not pushing back against it, it will just eventually have to simply dissolve. And during that entire time while this is happening, you are waking more. You are becoming deeper. You are becoming wiser. You are becoming more compassionate. You are becoming more tender. All of these qualities are growing within you. They are developing. They are maturing to the point where you just very naturally just slide into this place of equanimity that is both doing nothing and doing everything at the same time. And then you find that your life is just happening. You don't have to stop doing. You find that the doing itself begins to take on a different character, a character that's effortless. It's easy. There's no strain. There's no struggle. So does that help you, Shanika? The key is to drop the fight, drop the argument. Early on, as we really begin to awaken and we see the huge mistake that the egoic mind is, there's a sense of, God, I want out of this as soon as I possibly can. And it's perfectly natural. But there is no quick way out of it. The only way out of it is the right way out of it, the straight way out of it. and that way is a withdrawing of our attention back to the source. We're always looking for where our sense of identity has identified with form. And every time we see it, that's the awakening, right? The awakening isn't suddenly it's all gone and you're free. The awakening is seeing where you have been identified. And in the seeing, the disidentification begins to take place. And at first it can be, ooh, God, it may not be very comfortable, right? That's okay. That's okay. The seeing is what matters. If you see it, you will eventually begin to withdraw back. And you'll just see that the psychological me isn't a thing. It is simply habitual behavior and nothing more. So thank you for that, Shanika. Sorry. Maliyuga says, can we stop attention? It's obvious that we cannot see our true nature with attention. It means that there are two. Is it possible to stop it? No, it isn't. It's also not necessary. You're absolutely right. You cannot see your true nature with attention. Attention is simply focus, and it's like a flashlight. It's, you know, they see something and then it sees something else. It is never the whole picture. And you do not need attention in order to see who you are. And remember, your true nature is your true nature, right? It isn't going anywhere. It isn't true when you see it and not true when you don't. It is the eternal truth. It's the truth whether you believe it or not, whether you see it or not. And so the way in which we, quote unquote, know our true nature is not through an attention on it, because any attention on it would turn it into an object that you're looking at, which you said right there. It means that there would be two, right? Your true nature is unknowable. It is where you are looking from. It is that which is hearing my words right now. That is your true nature. It's that simple. It's not complex. It's not heavens parting and angels singing, although sometimes that happens. Sometimes it does. But that's not even that, you know, is really the special effects of awakening, right? It's not the storyline. So the way you see your true nature, the way you know your true nature, is by feeling your own sense of being. Now, this is interesting because while you're doing that, you're actually using your attention. You're withdrawing your attention from the external objects that we experience most of the time, and you're turning it inward. Now, it's interesting because you're turning attention inward, looking for something that your attention cannot see. But when you do that, all of the outward focusing of attention turns inward and gets transformed. So it's no longer attention, it's introspection, it's inquiry. It becomes self-inquiry. Attention is one of our three powers: attention, belief, and identification. The entire structure of our human experience rests on those three things. So, and attention, you know, when attention is put on a belief with wisdom, we see the belief as a belief. When attention is on a belief without wisdom, it believes that belief is true. Same thing with identification. So when attention begins to turn itself inward, you're right, it cannot see the true nature, but that focus begins to take out of our attention, out of the field of view, the field of consciousness, that which has been distracting us. And we can begin to sink deeply into the direct realization of who we are, which is beyond our attention. Nonetheless, where you focus your attention is extremely important. And both for your spiritual awakening and also just for your everyday life. And one of the reasons why our world is so crazy, especially in the West, is simply we are so distracted by so many things. Our attention doesn't land on anything. We have a mass epidemic of attention deficit disorder. We don't focus on what's most important. We don't even know how to determine what's important. We've all been so poorly educated. We have everybody telling us, oh, this is important. Oh, this is important. You need to have this. This is the most important thing. We're having the Black Friday sale, right? That's the most important thing. That's way more important than being at home and having a holiday with your family. I mean, all of which to what? Grab your attention. Your attention will go towards what you regard as being the most important. If you regard awakening and knowing yourself as you actually are, that will get your attention. That will get your curiosity. And again, I reiterate, the attention cannot know or understand your true nature because your true nature is not an object that can be perceived. But it does direct yourself in a way that everything extraneous is pushed aside. And you are basically sitting knocking on the door. And your knocking on the door isn't what determines whether that door opens or not. There's no causal connection between knocking and opening. But if you are standing there looking at it, knocking, you're in the very best place there is to see it when it does open. Does that help you, Shanika? Or I'm sorry, Malayuga asked that one. So don't try to stop attention. Just notice where it's going and then start directing it to where you want it to go. And the more you can direct it back inwardly, putting your attention on what? The extremely non-material and impossible to conceive idea that you are perceiving. Even though you cannot see the perceiver, you know that you are perceiving. On a very subtle level, that's putting your attention on that which cannot be seen. And that attention begins to merge into the knowingness that is, in fact, your actual being. And then the duality between knowingness and attention dissolves. And you see attention is simply an aspect of your true being, an aspect of the ultimate knowingness, which is the stuff out of which you are actually made. Tabby says, hello, Tabby from Pakistan. Hi, Tabby. So good to have you here. Johanna says, I'm trying to understand headlessness. Is the true formless consciousness of all forms here where I am? Yes. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. I love the headless way. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Those of you who are not familiar with it, it's Douglas. Oh shoot, what's his last name? Not Douglas. I won't say Douglas Adams, but he did the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Douglas. Somebody can tell me. It just completely slips my mind right now. But the headless way it's a system of pointing towards the formless consciousness. And you can do it because the key pointer is very simple, and that is you've never actually seen your own face. Everything you know about how you appear. And I've done a variation on those exercises, and I've done the distance of zero. What do you look like from a distance of zero? If I ask you to picture yourself, you will call up in mind a picture of you, how you look standing about 5 feet away. Maybe it'll be a close-up, maybe it'll be basically what you look like in a picture or on a video, and the like. And it's incredibly arresting of of attention when you realize that that image you're holding, you've never actually seen. You've never seen yourself from that perspective. So the image, self-image you're holding is basically secondhand. It's hearsay. So what do you look like to yourself, which is right here? Well, to yourself, I don't have a face. I don't have a head, right? It's not that there's no head here. What it means is that if you actually look at what you are experiencing, I'm experiencing a vast emptiness that is absolutely full with an entire universe, and there doesn't seem to be any end to it. And so I can say, from my perspective, right, not the perspective of some picture that somebody else took, what I actually experience is myself as formless consciousness. That's all I know. That's my actual experience. That's your actual experience. We believe ourselves. We believe that this consciousness has been compressed within a skull or is a product of the brain. We believe that. We were taught that. We soaked it up and we've been acting out it as if it's true. But all of a sudden you go, wait a minute. That was told to me. That's secondhand information. What is firsthand information? What is my direct experience? My direct experience is I am consciousness. I am boundless consciousness. Everything that I come aware of that appears to be a limit then disappears. Well, I'm obviously not limited. I'm obviously not bounded. Obviously, when you're actually trying to describe where you're actually looking from in the ultimate first person, from a distance of zero, not from the other side of the room. How others perceive me is great. That's wonderful, but I'm not going to form my own sense of identity out of how others perceive me. I'm just going to go with what I actually experience. And that formlessness, that formless consciousness, when I look around, I see nothing but that. And all forms appear in it. So is the true formless consciousness of all forms here where I am? Absolutely it is. It's also here where I am. It's also on the other side of the world. It's where Tabby is in Pakistan, as well as you down in Mexico. It's just look, everything is appearing in it, and that is all you know. But we have been trained to identify with a particular form. And so we think that form's just another place, a little concentration of consciousness. But what I actually experience is infinite, boundless consciousness filled with forms. And so those forms are swimming in the same soup. They are part of this soup, and I am the soup, and I can no longer make any distinction between me and them because all I know of myself is the consciousness. I don't have to imagine what they happen to be experiencing. My guess is it's exactly the same thing that I'm experiencing, which means they're perfect, pure, infinite consciousness as well. Does that help, Johanna? Tabby says, Tabby 1975, how do people who shifted their form after dying can help you in your transformation? Well, in practical ways, somebody's died but left behind work, a book, or YouTube videos, or music, or art is assisting in your transformation after they're gone. If you mean they are some kind of being that is like now interacting with us, I don't really like to go into that kind of stuff simply because it's filled with superstition and belief and skepticism. So on one side, you have people who are true believers in it, you know, spiritualist and communing with others from the other side and all that. And then you have the others who are staunch materialists who say, no, it's over, consciousness ends, blah, blah, blah. Both sides to me are off, because one, I like to have a little bit of rationality behind what I believe, but not so much that I just discount it because I don't understand it. It can't be so, right? To me, that's just a silly prejudice, and it's as superstitious as somebody who just believes it without actually questioning and investigating. So instead, I investigate. What I know for a fact is that I hear within me voices that are give me guidance, that are wise, that are benevolent, that help out. I have a sense of people that I've known before as active within me. I don't know if there's a self-conscious entity there somewhere that's communicating with me. There's no way you can know it. There's no way you can know what the actual origin of the wisdom is. But wisdom is unfolding to us. It is coming. It is coming from somewhere. Ultimately, because I am non-dual in my approach to things, that the one who has died and myself here, and how many times they've died, however, it doesn't really matter, and I are made of the same substance. So the more I know the oneness of myself, with them, the more access I have to them. That about them which is eternal. The body, of course, is not eternal, but there's some aspect that is. And the more I am one with that, the more I am one with all. And so everybody's alive there. Everybody still exists. The whole idea of where you go after death and different levels and dimensions, I don't know. That's all speculation. It doesn't matter, because on a practical level, I have access to all that wisdom. And that's what matters, because that's what I need. You know, I just don't want to have a conversation about, you know, cars or something. You know, if somebody's gone to the other side, hey, I want some info here. I want some useful stuff. I want some stuff that I can't get anywhere else. So, so that's kind of the way I see it. You can't reject it, but I can't prove it. And so I look. What I always do is I look for what I am actually experiencing. And then I recognize that much of what I am experiencing, I can't explain. You know, the universe is far more strange and far more interesting and far more mysterious than we can possibly even begin to imagine that it is. So the most strange we could possibly imagine is nothing compared to how strange it actually is. And so for us to say, oh no, those things happen, is narrow and petty. For those to say, yeah, they absolutely must happen, it must be like that, is based on assumption, right? In between that, the rejection and the unchallenged assumptions, I find the mystery. And I like being in the mystery. I don't really know what it is. But I know that it is. And I know that I experience it. And to me, that's why I'm a mystic. I live in the mystery. I don't need to have this kind of concrete, rational answer. So I don't accept an irrational assumption, but I also don't accept a narrowed rationality that only accepts, it basically is reductionist and materialistic. Neither one of those make any sense to me. And I sit in the middle where the great mystery is going, this is way beyond anything anybody can possibly fathom. But oddly enough, I'm part of it. I'm right smack dab in the middle of it. So it is a mystery. And at the same time, I'm it. So I'm both knowing something and not knowing something at exactly the same time. And it just keeps me really engaged and interested in things. So does that help you, Tabby? Tabby 1975. Prem Sahaj, hello from India. Hello, Prem. Welcome. I don't think I've seen you here before. Avram 93. What can humanity learn from natural phenomena that can't be learned from artifact? Let me see if I understand your question. I'm not really sure how you're using the word artifact, because it can be used like in archaeology, where an artifact is, some kind of leftover from a previous culture. And culture can speak of it as a cultural artifact, right? We don't wear wigs. Men don't wear wigs anymore. Especially when they're positions of power and that sort of thing. That's a cultural artifact. Yeah, that the wig is an artifact from a very, very different time. Also really weird idea. On top of it, that and dancing minuets. Never quite got that. Thank God for rock and roll. Anyway, I'm digressing. What can be learned from the natural phenomena that can't be learned from artifact? So if you're talking about the natural world, like nature and the like, what we learn from nature is immediacy. We learn from nature that every moment is but a time slice in a never-ending cycle of recycling of energy from form to form to form to form to form. We learn from the immediacy and the nowness of that, of the beingness that animates it. Because no form is ever stagnant. It never just sits there. Right? That it's constantly in motion. It's constantly changing. It's constantly renewing itself. We get the deep insight into emptiness as the nature of all things. And that emptiness becomes very personal and very, very intimate, right? So that you have a relationship with the tree, because the tree is made of the same stuff you are. There's this incredible communication and connection that takes place. And there's no need to know its history or its future or any of that. Now, on another level, if you're talking about artifact, the artifact is stuff, left over from the past. And that has its use. It's not really the discovery of truth, because we're discovering, bits and pieces, trying to put together of some idea of what life used to be like for other people. To me, the most powerful thing about that is if we're open to it, we can glean from cultures that are no longer with us wisdom that we may have forgotten in our technological arrogance, to which our spiritual development has not kept pace. Our technology is what will destroy us, and the fact that we're just too immature to use it. We can glean from these archaic cultures the wisdom that can keep us from killing ourselves. There's actually a great book I have it over here that I just started reading from Terence McKenna called The Archaic Revival. And it's a phenomena that when a culture gets in trouble, when it's on the brink of ending, which is where we are, it begins to look to back in history to find some model that actually did work. When the Middle Ages were coming to an end, and it was all just kind of falling apart. The Renaissance happened because they looked to classical Greece. Matter of fact, it wasn't even called classical Greece at that point. It was just Greek history, and what little they had left from the library at Alexandria and other stuff from the time, and some of the writings that then got discovered that became very important, and they translated it. So they looked back 2,000 years, more than 2,000 years, to Plato and Aristotle and the like, and the myths and the gods of the time, and you can see that reflected in the architecture and the like. Mostly Greek, some of the ancient Roman as well, and that was what revived, opened the door to the Renaissance. So in that sense, artifact artifacts are kind of like little messages in a bottle from a time when things might have been working way better than they are now. I am personally of a mind that we need to go even further back to the time of to the times when culture was much more feminine in nature, where the women had a much higher status, where even the priestesses and the oracles and the like, where there was a direct connection with nature, where the cycles of nature were understood, and we didn't see ourselves as separate from it and dominant of it, and also a deep appreciation of the mysteries, shamanism and that sort of thing, that we're not tied to the materialistic view, so we're very easily wandering through different dimensions and the like. So there's plenty for us to draw on in terms of artifacts in order to bring ourselves back into a degree of sanity. So I hope that answers your question, Avram. And I hope I got your two ideas right about the natural phenomena and artifact. If not, I'm sure you'll tell me. So anyway, let's see. Oh dear, the list has just grown huge. Prime Minister says he looks like in the middle. I'm not sure what that means. Did you say something earlier that I missed? I guess not. Hello from India. He looks like in the middle. Okay. River of Wellness. That's a nice name. Hi, GP. It is so good to see you. Really love listening. Thanks for being there, Julie in the UK. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Julie. That's wow. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear. I do love doing this. Mark C. Hello, all. Good time to get our vitamin G. That's great. Thank you, Mark. Clay Sue 1. C. Grateful to be here and to have you to listen to. Ishna Tova. Ishna Tova. Happy Jewish New Year. Ishna Tova to you. Tova means like celebrate and happy, right? I think that's what it means. Let's see. GP, I find it so very challenging to not be identified with the body, as am always in pain, which does not allow me to sleep. Can you help? Julie in the UK. Usually when there's a chronic pain in the body, there's some deeply held emotional stuff that we have not yet really come to terms with. It's not a criticism of anybody. It's just the way it is. The disidentification with the body has nothing to do with what the body is feeling. There's this belief there that somehow if I'm disidentified, it won't hurt anymore. And that's not necessarily true. It might happen that way. But when disidentification takes place, you're simply saying that I am not this body. I'm experiencing this body just as it is, but it's not who I essentially am. I am the consciousness that is aware of the body. Now, the deeper that goes, the less suffering there will be. What it will also do is provide a very safe space in which the deep emotional and energetic material that is causing a chronic pain can begin to come to the surface to be healed. A rejection of the pain, a pushing away of the pain is going to exacerbate it. It's going to elongate it. You're in a fight with something that you cannot possibly win. Sorry. You simply have to let the body do what it needs to do. You provide it the space in order to heal. So in a reconciliation, what I would do is I would, after kind of bringing somebody to a state of allowing where simply allowing things to be there the way they are, I would give that pain all of your attention. Stop pushing it away and instead give it all of your attention. If it's in a particular part of the body, I might even put my hand there. Have you put your hand there and just be with it and take away all resistance to it. Now, as the resistance goes down, oftentimes the pain itself may begin to dissolve somewhat. It may expand, it may radiate outward, it may move, but it will begin to respond to the new environment in which you are holding it. After a while, if you can feel that that energy has loosened up a bit, you can simply ask it to what it needs from you. What do you have a story you need to tell me? What do you need to do to release this emotional pain that's being held? And eventually it will, because that's how it works. The problem is that we fight with ourselves. We create a conflict. We have resistance to what we're feeling. We're trying to get rid of it. And something that has a very natural life cycle, it's there for a reason. It wants to be free, doesn't have any place to move. Every time it tries to come up and talk to you, you push it away. So treat it as if, imagine that the pain in the body is like a little child that is deeply distressed, deeply hurt, afraid, traumatized, and comes to you for comfort. Imagine there's a little, in your case, a little girl coming, and she's scared. She doesn't know what to do. She's tense. She's hurting. You wouldn't say, "Go away. I don't like it. I don't like this. This is no good. I don't want to feel you. Go away. Here, read this book. Take this course." You wouldn't do that. You would literally scoop her up into your arms and hold her on your lap. You'd stroke her hair and her back. You would give her all the comfort you could possibly give her. And eventually, her little body would begin to relax. The energy would start to move again. And she might tell you the story of what's happening. She might not. She just may hop off your lap and run off and start playing again. This is the kind of compassionate introspection that we need. Taking in our inner struggles as an intelligence that's trying to communicate something, not as a problem that we have to fix or get rid of. And I find that to be the best way for this to work. And I find it works a lot. I've got lots of testimonies of people who the pains just went away. They just vanished. Some very quickly, some are a little bit more persistent and take a bit of time, but the real blessing isn't the removal of the pain. The blessing is the different state of mind, the state of being that you're in, that is now open and flexible and receptive rather than narrow and struggling and in a deep state of inner conflict. No illness or pain can survive in a conflict-free environment. Simply can't do it. Because it needs to have something pushing against it. If you drop the struggle, there's no struggle. If you drop the fight, there's no fight. It takes two. So you simply, I know it hurts. Okay, it hurts. I know this hurts. I am going to be with this as best I can. And that's all you can do. And the energy that's trying to communicate to you will feel that shift. Even though it's hard for you to do, it will still feel that you're not fighting it anymore, that it has some room to move. And really amazing things can happen too. You can have entire conversations with these energies as if they were entities in and of themselves. Maybe they are, going back to somebody else talking about other lifetimes and stuff. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're simply aspects of ourselves that have been disowned. So does that help you? River of Wellness. Does that help you, Julie? Shanika says, how to know if someone is truly enlightened? Do all enlightened people feel the same experience? Is it a must to renunciate or is it a choice? Oh, 3 different questions. How do you know if someone is truly enlightened? You just kind of know. And if you're not sure, don't don't listen to everybody. Oh yeah, he's enlightened. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. If you're talking about it in terms of somebody that you can trust and listen to, you just trust your own gut. I mean, maybe they're not enlightened and they can still, but still have plenty of wisdom to offer. It's not about enlightenment; it's about goodness. It's not about, it's not about all this, great knowledge. It's about heart. Do you feel safe with them? Do you feel embraced by them? Do you feel understood by them and heard? Then who cares if they're enlightened or not? They're an open-hearted being that isn't trying to get anything from you, but in fact is just wanting to give to you. That's all you need to know. Make it about that, and don't worry about this word enlightenment, which is, most people don't understand what it means anyway. Do all enlightened people feel the same experience? They all feel the same sense of being. None of them have the same experience because they all have different bodies, different lives, different birthdays, different everything. So the experience is different, but the essence of the experience is absolutely the same. But it's absolutely the same for you. They feel the same thing you do. There's no difference. There's no difference. The only difference is they know that they are pure consciousness. You are pure consciousness, but you don't know it. That's the only difference. Everything else, every last bit of experience is the same. And is it a must to renunciate, or is it a choice? If you renunciate, that is, I'm getting rid of the world. I'm leaving the world behind. I'm leaving my family. I'm leaving my responsibilities. Screw it. I'm going off to Nepal. I'm going to sit in a cave. I'm going to meditate all day long. That's not renunciation, because you could very easily bring you with you. Renunciation is not a physical move you do. It is an inner state that you arrive at. Whereas you are in a state of renouncing beliefs and instead embracing truths. You are renouncing anything that is contrary to your highest sense of good and your highest sense of being. You are renouncing the false sense of self, the egoic identity, and saying, I'm not going to participate in them. I'm consciously choosing to not participate in that anymore, to withdraw my consciousness from it. You'll get tricked. You'll find yourself acting it out again. It's going to happen. But that doesn't affect the renunciation. The renunciation is just a consistent inner willingness to turn attention away from the attractiveness and distraction of material objects and keep it focused as much as you possibly can inwardly on that which is beyond the range of your actual attention, as I discussed earlier. So renunciation is simply, once you see that the egoic mind is not a reality, that it is just a bunch of programmed responses in the system, and you have simply believed it to be something that it isn't, and that your true sense really is consciousness, the renunciation is beginning to happen. And you're not actually doing it. It's not even really a choice. It may surface as choices every now and then. Got the sneeze. It's not coming quite yet. And it may seem as though, oh, I can go this way or that way, and you make a choice. But even that is coming from a place. The renunciation has already taken place. It is even the tiniest awakening to your true nature. Immediately begins to recast, reframe the meaning of material objects and the things in our lives, and begins to take that meaning and put more and more stock and more importance on the internal world of spiritual experience. That's what renunciation really is. So you don't have to go running off to Tibet or India or something like that. If you want to, you can. but you don't have to. Again, it is a way in which you approach the life you have right now, your everyday existence. Johanna asks, from my perspective, if objects are empty, then they can only be observed as one dimension. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but this object is empty. I don't mean empty of the tea, but it will be here. Now it's empty of the tea too. But what I simply mean is that it's empty of having a fixed existence. I could very easily grind this down and make something else, make a hat, be a weird hat, but a hat nonetheless. I could make, I could make a bowl, I could make a spoon, I could make a little statue of Kanan or something, right? So all it's saying about empty, they can't, it's more than one dimensional, right? This is three-dimensional, and you can even look at it over time. And the human being is multidimensional: creativity and innovation and relationship and passion and love and intimacy and all sorts of things. All of those are also empty of inherent existence. So it's quite multidimensional, but the multidimensionalness is itself empty of any kind of permits, because the multidimensionalness has to do with the way the form happens to be moving over time. So the emptiness of objects does not flatten the object in the slightest. It allows for as many dimensions as you want. I think the current model of the universe, that the universe in its actuality is an 8-dimensional thing, of which we are perceiving only 3, 4 if you include time. That too is empty. I mean, Buddha even said that his own teachings were empty. The Dharma was empty. The highest teaching of the highest masters is also empty of self-existence, is temporary, it is provisional, it is something for this moment, and then it fades. The truth itself is the emptiness, and that is permanent, but it's not a thing. So it doesn't have a fixed form that makes it a thing. Its fixedness is simply its reality, its beingness, its knowingness. Does that answer your question, Johanna? Did I get that? Did I nail it, or did I hit my thumb with the hammer? Life is a Sketch says, in my language, we have the word praznik for a holiday, culturally religious. Praznik means in my language empty. Really? Wow, very interesting. Yeah, well, it would be. The holiday is empty of all the normal stuff that we do. It's a day that gets to define itself. I like that. Praznik. It means empty. Well, it's close to prajna, which means wisdom in Sanskrit, and the essential wisdom, especially in the heart, as said in the Heart Sutra, is prajnik, emptiness. Prajna, wisdom. That understanding emptiness is the ultimate wisdom, because you're seeing the ultimate truth. Louise Kenny says, hello, Louise, and then says, I love that. The ego is resistance. Brilliant. I guess that means brilliant. And Pam says, the ego is resistance. Wow, thanks. And then Spiral Dynamics says, hello from France. Yeah, it was a huge awakening for me when I realized that we were projecting on things that are just functions. We were making them into entities, into objects. The mind does that. It's called abstraction. And I mean, the body is an abstraction, right? All language is an abstraction. So I can use the word body, you all know what I'm talking about, and yet I'm not really referring to any body in particular. I'm referring to body in general. But if you look at the body, it's 100 trillion cells that are all functioning together. There's not a thing called the body. And the mind works the same way. There's no mind. The mind isn't the thing that is thinking. The mind is the word for thinking. I like to use the example of wind. We say the wind is blowing, right? We use it as a noun, an object of sorts, or the subject, right? This thing, right? I mean, we even picture clouds in the sky, big puffy cheeks. So the wind is blowing, right? Well, there's no wind blowing. There's no wind making, blowing happen. Wind is blowing, and it's not even blowing. It is simply air moving. The experience of air moving, air in motion, is what we call wind. And so we give a word to a really a very complex set of functioning just so we can communicate. So the ego is nothing but the functioning of resistance within the system. Well, it's more than just resistance. It's the sense of I. It is all of the thoughts that revolve around the central thought that I am the body. I am separate. You are that. I am this. All of those thoughts make up a collection, a pattern. That pattern we call the ego. And our experience of it is resistance. It is pushing back. I also like Eckhart Tolle's use the term pain body, which is the ego again. I mean, it's this thing that feeds on pain. Right? It wants to create pain. It is not a thing. This is just really important. It's not a thing that wants pain. It is a functioning that has been habituated, formed into a particular pattern. And that pattern is the pursuit of pain, the pursuit of suffering, the pursuit of identification, the pursuit of I am this and not that. And those are all just patterns of thought. So there's no center to it. There's no thing. There's no ego that has to be gotten rid of. It's not this little creepy little demon guy hiding in the bushes ready to jump on you. It's simply a pattern of thought and feeling within the energy system. That's it. That's all it is. Once that's seen, you realize there's nothing there. And you withdraw from it the idea that it is a thing that is functioning, which means you take all its power away, and all of a sudden there's no ego. The ego doesn't exist. There's only patterns of thought, behavior, feeling. And if there's no ego there that I have to get rid of, thoughts and patterns, well, yeah, they can be stubborn because they're habits. But any habit can be broken once it's seen to be nothing but a learned behavior and not a thing. So it's really it's really a very powerful way to begin to see everything you experience as not as things, but as functions. And of course, that's what emptiness teaches. It's not a thing at all. It is simply a pattern in a moment that is constantly shifting and changing. But it is a pattern. It is conditioned, has a certain particular character and form to it. But once we identify it as such, we see that it isn't stuck there. We're not stuck there. It's certainly not who I am. And it's certainly the ego, not being a thing, doesn't have any power over me. It doesn't have any, you can't reach out and hold me. The only thing that holds it in place is my belief in it. The moment I see it for what it is, the entire pattern gets laid bare before my eyes. And then I get power over it. So thank you, Louise. Thank you, Pam. Hello from France. Shanika said, I knew I would get a beautiful answer. Thank you, GP. You're very welcome. Helen Watson says, hello, GP. Seems I've joined at the perfect time. If you've joined, it must be the perfect time. Robert Goldberg says, listening from Southern Nevada. Oh, welcome. Welcome. Wonderful. Hi, Robert. Eli, that is my biggest weakness, distraction. Looking at phone, computer, etc. How I get my power of attention back. Boy, you're asking the question of the age there, Eli. Walking down the, I see people walking down the street, just staring at their phone. I've seen this, these videos on YouTube, right, from surveillance cameras and the like, and people walking along on their phones and falling into fountains, slipping, tripping over stuff, running into people. Once you recognize that this distraction is not serving you, that the people who are distracting you are trying to keep you distracted so that you will buy their shit. It's really that simple. They want your attention. And there is something about the human nervous system that it's always, the human nervous system and the human mind, the unawakened human mind, the human mind that is really little more than part of the defense process. It's here to just keep the body alive. That's what it's for. That's where, the artifact of mind lies. And so it's extremely attentive to motion. Anything that moves, it immediately gets its attention, because as far as the nervous system is concerned, number one is, am I in danger? Is it a predator? Oh, it's not a predator. Is it a mate? Oh, not a mate. Is it food? Is it? And then if it's none of those things, attention goes away from it. But modern media has gotten extremely good at putting the things out there. And I've looked into marketing courses for MasterHEART Institute, and it's all about that. How do you get somebody's attention? How do you basically distract them towards you? And we are just inundated with it now. What I would say is do on a practical level, do one thing at a time. If you're driving your car, drive your car. If you're walking down the street and going somewhere, just do that. Turn your phone off. Focus your attention so that what you're doing. It's also the productivity levels in the workplace have gone way down, simply because it was originally thought, oh, we'll get people to do more, less people to do more, we'll make more money. I mean, typical capitalist nonsense. The productivity actually went down because our nervous systems aren't made to do it that much. We're made to focus on something, pay attention. Is it dangerous? Can I mate with it? Can I eat it? No? Okay, back to what I'm doing. And there's just a little part of us that's constantly monitoring the horizon for danger, right? Doing one thing at a time will restore control. If you've got the little notifications that pop up, I don't know, on Windows, on Mac, they're up in the right-hand corner, turn those off. If I'm doing this, I don't care if I got an email, or if somebody just posted a new video, or somebody liked something I said on Facebook. It's completely irrelevant to what I'm doing in this moment. So turn them off, right? If I want to check my Facebook account, okay, I'm going to do that. Anything there? I do that like once a day, right? Maybe twice a day. And the reason I wouldn't do it at all, but my business depends on it. I have to take care of people who've taken my graduates and people who've taken classes from me. So I have to go there and check it out. And then it's gone. It's not even on the screen. It's not leaving a message. It's not telling me somebody liked your thing. I don't care. So it is a matter of consciously choosing to regain the focus of attention. And it will feel uncomfortable at first when you start doing it, because it is an addiction. It's addiction as significant and as deep and as powerful as heroin or cocaine. Maybe even more so, because it connects so directly into our nature that it's triggering all of these very, very primitive things within us. So get rid of the distractions, take them away, get them off your desktop, and decide how you want to spend the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 2 hours, and then turn off everything else and do it. And at first you will be uncomfortable. I guarantee it, as any time we've been habituated into anything, we're going to feel uncomfortable. So I hope that helps you out, Eli. It's a tough one. It is a tough one. And everybody wants, how many new social media things happen every, are coming online all the time. So now it's not just Facebook. Well, you've actually also got YouTube. Thank God. I mean, you're watching me. There is quality stuff on YouTube, but don't cruise it, right? Go there, get what you need, and leave. But Instagram and it's endless. It's just endless, and every one of them appears to be the be all and the greatest thing since sliced bread. Decide what you're going to use, what you're not going to use, but decide what you're going to do with your life, and make sure that everything you do lines up with your ambitions, your desires, your aspirations, so that you don't have a bunch of people who really don't give a shit about you trying to grab your attention. Okay, buddy. Soundscape Central. Hey, Gregory. Oh, I don't get called that very often. Love you, man. Greetings from Dorset, England. I love you too. Thank you. I don't even know. I guess the word Gregory is out there somewhere. Maybe you have known me from a long time ago. Vicky says, hi, GP. Greetings here from London. Greetings to you, Vicky. Weston says, just wanted to, come on. Just wanted to share that I've been noticing the importance of how I bring awareness to my experience. Slowly learning how to be gentle and compassionate with myself. Thank you, GP. Beautiful. Yes. There's two parts to it. Whenever your awareness gets brought to something, and awareness in this case is the same as attention, right? Pure awareness is simply aware. Right? But once our attention hits something, the reaction, the programmed responses react to it. And we can push it away, resistance, the egoic energy can resist it. Another energy can, I want more of that, which is actually also the ego. But if we just approach it with compassion, with gentleness, with curiosity about what it is and why it's there, we've taken a step closer to pure awareness, which is open and spacious and loving and has no preference for anything in particular. But in between, we experience it as gentleness, compassion, acceptance, and allowing. I hope you continue on that. It will bring you to the point of pure, non-preferential, non-phenomenal awareness. Meryl, hello, Meryl. Greetings from Australia. Hello. Winter's Night says, Harding, right. Douglas Harding. Thank you. I keep wanting to say Douglas Adams. Douglas Harding is the fellow that developed the Headless way. And it's a system I love. It's absolutely brilliant. I can never think of Richard Lang. Richard Lang is one of his students because Douglas Harding died a while ago. Richard is kind of carrying the work on. Kay Lee says, listening from Greece. Oh, yay. Just came home and happy to find you are live once again. I am indeed. Glad to have you here with us. Ishta, beautiful day from Louisiana, USA. Wonderful. Sarah L says, good evening from Reykjavik, Iceland. Good evening, Sarah. River Wellness, which is Julie, says, thank you so much for your wonderful wisdom and advice to deal with chronic pain. It's touched me at a very deep level. I'm truly grateful. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, wonderful. Love it may sound trite, cliche. Love heals everything. And you'll find that resistance is just simply an unwillingness to love, which is an unwillingness to accept as it is, accept things as they are. Of course, the fear is if I accept something as it is, I'm stuck with it, but it's never the case, because the moment you accept it, you've created a new world in which it exists. The moment you are loving towards it, you have created an entirely new universe in which it exists, and it will respond. Nothing is fixed. Remember, the nature of everything is empty. And so it will transform. And the nature of all forms are to get into harmony, into balance with their environment. You could even say harmony. Sometimes the environment is so hostile to it that its relationship is in harmony, is discordant, right? But that's the best it can do in a particular environment, because all forms are interdependent with their environment. So I, as conscious awareness, if I shift the environment in which it's happening, I've created a new universe, a universe of benevolence and acceptance. Everything in it is going to feel the shift in it and begin to adjust to the new harmonious environment. That's how it works. And that's how you reach these deep traumas within us, these deep pains. Puya, hello from Canada. Hello, Puya. Wonderful to have you. Louise Kennedy. I too am sniffing and sneezing. Well, welcome to the crowd. Again, it's one of those things you just let your body do it. I have found that the more I let it do it, the faster these things move through, to the point where they very rarely debilitate me. And I learned that lesson really early on, to just have no resistance to it. If I have no resistance to it, it does its job and it moves on, which is the most I could ask for. LFC Dalek says, love your work and explanations, G. Thank you very much. I understand intellectually, but I don't feel the bliss. I think the ego has an expectancy, perhaps, of what the bliss should be once it dissolved. Yeah, it does. It's got this idea, the spiritual legends, the spiritual hero stories, the Enlightenment special effects, I will also call them. And so, this isn't happening, I must not be awakened. Just let go of it. It's not about the bliss. Don't put any stock in any kind of experience. Just keep your attention going back to the one who is experiencing. Now, the attention can't actually know the one it's been experiencing, because the attention is arisen out. But what it really is we are pulling our sense of self back to ourselves. That's all you have to do. The rest will take care of itself. So you don't have to make some kind of emotional thing happen in the body or in the nervous system or anything like that. It just kind of happens. And some things may persist. There may be some strong anxiety that goes back lifetimes, some deep woundings and things like that, there could be, an anticipation of something happening. It can go on for a while. It's okay, right? As you just continue to sink into the deep sense of who you are, all of that becomes less and less. It becomes less and less important. What is being experienced is no longer being interpreted as representative of me or my awakening or my wisdom or my understanding. Then at that point, you are now free from phenomena, and the phenomena can do whatever it needs to do. I love the quote from Nisargadatta talking about after his awakening. He said, I allow my human life to fulfill its destiny. I remain as I am. So just let the body do whatever the body needs to do. It won't affect you anymore. It's not a big deal. And every time something, well, shouldn't it be like, no, I have no idea what it's supposed to be like. I suppose it's supposed to be like this because this is exactly what I am experiencing. And can you just feel the openness and the acceptance in that? And now you're not comparing yourself to some ideal that you can't even know, right? You just make something up. Shouldn't it be like this? And all that does is separate you from it. And in fact, you want to Join to it with it. It is you. It's all originating with you. Even the phenomena that appears to be contradicting you is emanating from you. You can't get away from you. You are eternally stuck with you. But that you happens to be infinite in nature. So it's not bad to be to be stuck with the infinite. So does that help? Does that help out? Dalek LFC, who says, I'm from England, by the way. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Sarah L says, gadgets are like weapons of mass distraction these days. It's very true. I like that term, weapons of mass distraction. I heard a very brilliant quote. I may have shared it before on Satsang. I don't even know who made the quote. I heard it from Terence McKenna. Said that modern media is the spreading of darkness at the speed of light. We have to, the devil works by distracting and planting thoughts, because the devil has no power in and of himself. He has to convince us to give our power away. There's no real devil, by the way. The devil is just another word for the ego. It's a personification of the ego, that which resists, that which blocks, that which obstructs. That's all the word means. Satan means the adversary, the obstacle. That's all it is. Ishta. In regard to the self, I like this analogy of the shadow. A shadow exists, but has no smell, no sound, no tactile, etc. It is a form with no actual mass. Yes. Yeah. The imaginary self is imaginary. It's imaginary. This self that we think we are exists only as an idea. But because it's believed in, other thoughts collect around it and form a pattern. That pattern is what we know as the egoic mind. That's it. That's all it is. And so it is like a shadow, but we're believing the shadow is really here, is a being, is an entity. We believe somehow I'm it and I got to get out of it, or it's this thing that's trying to get me. None of that's true. It is just a thought. That's all it is. Let's see. I am beginning to droop here a little bit, folks. 2:37. So I'm just going to take a couple more and then call it a night. Anne said, great satsang, loved your addressing of my emptiness loose ends post. Right on for me. Very good. When give up distractions and doingness of life to run into boredom. Yes, but that's a good boredom. That boredom is merely the energy system adjusting to not being distracted. It's okay. All it's trying to do is, this feels horrible. Isn't it? It's uncomfortable. I want to go back to being distracted. That's all it is. That's all boredom, the boredom is. So don't worry about it. So Mark says, I'm a little confused about wanting things most of the time. I don't feel like I want anything, but I have moments when I suddenly get urges. I'm not sure who's having these urges. God bless, GP. Thank you. Nobody's having the urges. Right? When you do the inquiry of who's actually experiencing, you find there's nobody there. Right? When you see that the ego, this thing, this sense of self, is only a thought, you realize there's nobody actually there. And it's only my belief in it that gives it any kind of power. So you, as pure consciousness, have no desires. You want nothing. Why would you want anything? You're everything. Right? But within you, within consciousness, desire arises. Desire is simply the energy of motion, the energy of evolution, the energy of growth is what we call desire. When we use the word desire, we think of it as something missing that I have to get. But the reality of desire, it is something in life that's already there and is simply unfolding itself. It is revealing a new aspect of itself. So it's both at the same time. I, the true me, wants nothing, needs nothing. And at the same time, I am aware of life, which is the constant flow of unfoldment and desire. So the wanting is natural to life. It's like blinking. It's not, it's not like I want to blink. I need to blink. I'm going to blink now. It's not, it just happens, right? Desire is like that. We're just confused because of the sense of self, the false sense of self being believed. We think that desire is my desire. That thought is illusory. It's not your desire. It's just desire. It's just life. This is what life does. And you are actually that which is desireless. But that doesn't mean there's no desire. It simply means that consciousness is the source of desire and is free of desire simultaneously. It is never contained by or dependent upon desire. It is never contained or dependent upon anything. Everything depends on it. It depends on nothing. That's its infinite and its infinitely empty nature. So it can be the infinite from which everything else arises. And the arising of these things makes for interaction, love, fun, dancing, art. All of it is all arising out of the infinite emptiness of consciousness. Sophie. Hello, Sophie. Hello, GP. Love to see you again. Lovely to see you. Thank you for reflecting passionate freedom love. Oh, you're so welcome. Robert, I understand your idea about allowing things. Good, good, good. Took me a long time, and it is a practice. Allowing is a practice, because remember, the nature of the ego is just a word for resistance, which is the exact opposite of allowing. So when you are allowing, you are not identifying with the ego. When you feel resistance, and here it gets tricky because you have to allow even the resistance to be there, just because it's just a feeling. That's all it is. Something wants to resist. Okay, I know you want to resist. It's okay. It's okay, you want to resist. It's fine. And you'll find that this inner space opens up because you're not arguing with anything, right? So there's no inner conflict. LFC Dilek says, thank you, GP. Yes, those words helped, as did that quote. Sometimes the ego makes me laugh in its desperate efforts to justify its existence. Yes, yes, it does. It's funny, right? It's funny, this thing trying to justify its existence, and it doesn't exist. It is a pattern of it. It's like a robot trying to convince you that it's sad. But there's nothing there. It's not sentient. It can't be sad. It can't be funny. It's just imitating it. I oftentimes will refer to it as the robot. Eli says, great satsang. I'm going to go walk my dog now without earbuds. That's just be with the damn dog. That's it. Way to go. Eli said, thank you. Goodbye. Oh, yay. Yes. Let's a victory for freedom from distraction. Just be present. Smell the air. Watch the dog. Watch the way they act. They're fascinating. Fascinating. Louis Kennedy, the shadow, a bit like Plato's cave. Yeah, exactly like Plato's cave. Louis says, thanks so much for an interesting talk. Get well soon. Thank you. I will. Chrissy says, thank you. Always for the clear and loving pointings. Mark says, wow, that's so powerful, but makes complete sense. Thanks, GP. Bless. Thank you. GP, is consciousness an intelligent force? Is there a master plan in the universe? No, no master plan, not over time. Isn't consciousness an intelligent force? Not a intelligent force, it's the intelligence. But it's not an intelligence separate from you. It is your intelligence. It's the intelligence you are experiencing right this moment, is the universal intelligence. It's the same intelligence that I'm experiencing. The intelligence that's asking that question is exactly the same intelligence that's answering it. It is the only intelligence that there is. And so there is no master plan. There's no, we're going to make that off in the future. It is a perfectly harmonious inner unfolding of what is that is fresh and new every single moment, so fresh and new that even infinite consciousness is excited and delighted by what arises within it. I'm shortening the answers here a little bit now because I'm exhausted. That's Ein Fazim Gewebe des Lebens. Sounds German. Who asked that last question? So thank you for that. John David, what is called the world is only thoughts. When the world disappears, that is, when there are no thoughts, the mind experiences bliss. When the world appears, it experiences suffering. Ramana Maharshi. Thank you, John. Yeah. When the world appears, when we believe that the world is this objective thing that exists separate from us, that is the cause of suffering. That belief gives rise to the I that is separate from that, which is the sense of the ego. When the world is seen as nothing but mind projected, not an object, but just a thought, then all of that begins to dissolve, including the egoic mind. And that is the experience of peace, stillness, happiness. Judy says, thanks for another awesome satsang. Thank you, Judy. Sound Central said, I heard your name ages ago on the satsang. So just to ask now, if we allow and have no resistance. Oh, referring to Gregor. Okay. Yeah, a long time ago, I wasn't even using the word GP. If allow and have no resistance, the law of attraction will work because of the vibrational match. I'm just reading a book now. Yes. I really don't like to call it the law of attraction, and I don't teach it as such. But yes, the law of attraction, the way it's taught, is kind of a dilution of this deeper, more profound spiritual energy, that when we are in a state of allowing, there's no resistance to anything. But it doesn't mean that what we want is immediately going to come to us. What it means is that the environment in which desire has arisen, a desire that we would like to fulfill, is going to become transformed. And it's going to become something else. It may even disappear, and you may find you don't even want that thing that you wanted before. Or it may transform itself into the thing that you are seeking. It's not that the thing exists here, and you're over here, and my vibration gets raised, and ooh, there it is, and you connect up together. It's all happening within consciousness. So the energy itself that is now in a state of resistance, when the environment is open and accepting, that energy begins to transform itself. And so the very same energy that was making up the resistance is now making up the very thing that you're seeking. So it doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. So I more accurately, I think the more accurate term for it is the law of reflection, which I like better. But it is the same idea. That is how it works. See it. I just always like to guide people that are looking at the law of attraction towards a deeper, more spiritual approach. Because unfortunately, the way law of attraction is taught and marketed, it's all about getting stuff. But there's no satisfaction in the stuff you're going to get. The stuff appears, but after you find the satisfaction that doesn't need any stuff. That's kind of the paradox of it. So Shani says, thank you, go rest. Thank you. Ishta, Siddhartha Amaz, oh, I can't pronounce that. May your feet walk softly on the earth. Thank you, Ishta. Don't worry about my question right now. Get relaxed and sleep. Thank you. And yes, it's German. It means a fiber in the fabric of life. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, GP. Love to all you guys. Marlene says, I was late coming, but heard exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you to GP and all participated. Other direction. We're done. Thank you, everybody. Of course, law of reflection. Thanks, GP. I'm reading Ask and It Is Given. Yes, they mention it will not make you happy. Yeah, if you really dive into the teachings of Abraham, they never say get the stuff so you can be happy. It's get happy to the point where you don't care whether you have the stuff or not. That's freedom, right? Then it'll come, it doesn't come, who cares, right? You have what you really have always wanted is nothing but happiness, and we've just projected it on objects. So very good. Thank you for that. Blessings, G, from Johanna. Thank you, says Sarah. So thank you to all. I will see you next week. I think I'm going to still be here in Seattle. I won't be back in New York probably till the end of the month. So that's that. If anybody lives out here in Seattle, or would, especially anyone who, if any of you who are listening to me have experience or know how about how to organize and manage live events, then I would please send me an email or put something, a comment or something, because I'm looking for help to do that. I'd like to start doing these satsangs in public rather than just in just like virtually, you know, because I really love doing it in person. So if any of you out there who can help me, I would love that. And if any of you feel moved to donate a little bit each month to help me offset the cost of doing this, just go to patreon.com/GP Walsh. And as little as $1 a month really does help. So, Marie says, thank you from Tacoma, Washington. Hi there. Yeah, we're in the same neighborhood. Louise says, thanks to you all, says LFC. Soundscape said something and then retracted it. Inner freedom, yeah, says Louise. Lots of loving energy headed your way. Thank you to you all. And I will see you all very soon, if not sooner.